bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on SiriusXM FC.
Welcome, everyone, to a new edition of USL All Access on SiriusXM FC. On this Tuesday night, we look ahead to the Open Cup, back to Charleston's, dominant at least 45 minutes against Louisville in an important result. We've got still a handful of teams unbeaten, handful of teams without a win. A lot to chat about, including what'll be a heartwarming story in Sacramento as well. With Devon Kerr, Mehmet McConnell, as always. Mike Watts, Dev, is that an upset pick you've got on your hat for this upcoming Open Cup week?
Honest question before we go any further, because I know we're going to get into things. Is it really an upset?
Well, the way El Paso's playing and the way Union Omaha are playing, probably not.
Let's just say I'm not showing favoritism because I'm picking them to beat El Paso. I'm showing favoritism because I'm from there.
Yeah,
and I expect them to beat El Paso.
Important distinction. Very good.
No. Yeah. The boys back in action tomorrow. Excited about that. The boys.
Who?
Union Omaha.
Oh, I'm making owl noises.
I didn't say – no, I know that. But also I thought you were pulling the – we have a producer who anytime that a person in his conversation references a team as we, he kind of gives you flack for it.
Yep.
Where do you fall into that conversation, by the way? Do you think people can say we or no?
You have to be paid by said team.
You have to be paid by said team. Okay, so if you're a person who's born and raised in the Bronx, right, and all you've ever known is baseball, specifically the Yankees, you don't say we.
I wouldn't say we.
But if you're a person who was born in Queens and you're a Mets fan, but you work for the Yankees at security, you can say we?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you and I align in life almost to perfection on every subject. Almost. In a lot of areas, we're very similar. Coleslaw obviously is still a sore subject for both you and I. I think we disagree on this one.
If Liverpool flames out this week in Champions League, you would say we lost, or you would say Liverpool lost?
I think it depends on the context. If I would say they, I might use we. It just depends. Like we, they. It's my club, just like it's everybody else's club.
All right.
I didn't say we when it came to Union Omaha. I'm not showing favoritism.
No, but in the context of this conversation, you're definitely.
We are playing tomorrow night in the Open Cup.
Oh, all right. Here we go, Dev. Let's start with this. It's actually somewhat of a retraction. It's actually Eagle Rare that we were definitely not drinking in the press box.
No, and I was saying
Louisville.
Angels Envy, right?
Yeah,
that's on me.
It's unfortunate because I followed you into the hole and I knew better.
And for sure. And to be fair, I'm Mr. Bourbon. I will take full responsibility for it. I was so excited just about the prospect that you and I were going to get to share said nectar together.
Mm-hmm.
I was overwhelmed by greatness. You and I were both very tired too and traveling a ton. And literally about 17, 18 minutes after that game was done, we were in a car driving to Cincinnati to catch a flight.
Yeah. Sorry to the purple people, I guess is what I'm getting at.
100%. And we owe them one now.
Yes.
Probably more than one, but
Yeah. We've got a tab. Let's talk about it. Louisville, of course. We spoke last week. Ironically, of course, our game on CBS Sports Network, first game on that network for USL, coincided with the airing of this show. So we didn't get a chance to talk all that much about Charleston and Louisville, lest, there be 3 goals in the first half, and all of a sudden everything would look a little bit silly by comparison. Lo and behold, here we are. There were 4 goals in the first half. It finishes 3-2 in favor of Charleston. Danny Cruz made it abundantly clear. He essentially called it an unacceptable first half performance. There was a feeling that the second half was improved, but ultimately Charleston, sellout crowd, Eastern Conference final rematch. I think there's still a giant chip on their shoulder. I don't know that it's just us. I don't know if there's enough national talking heads But I get the feeling they were well aware that they were probably being shortchanged relative to Louisville's early dominance. And they went out and kicked Louisville's butt all over the field for the first 45 minutes and then saw it over the line. It was a very impressive performance.
I would agree with you. I would also say that in terms of being shortchanged, respectfully, who had they really played up until that point in time? Number one. Number two, I never said, oh, this team isn't gonna. Well, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
We knew they'd be good.
We knew they would be good. They hadn't really played anybody. Let's remember that, okay? In terms of regular season, they played North Carolina. Now I understand a couple of these are on the road, but they played North Carolina, meh. Oakland, meh. Miami, I see stuff for them in the future, and they've definitely had their struggles. We're going to talk about their obliteration against the Tampa Bay Rowdies, at least from a score line. And then Rhode Island. So New Mexico's thrown in there. They didn't really have a ton of competition that would make you go, wow, they're for real. The New Mexico game, for sure, I thought was very impressive. And yeah, they showed up. I think shortchanging is an interesting use of words, not knocking you.
It's my choice, yeah.
Yeah. But they were incredible for the first 45 minutes. Truly incredible. Here's where I'm stuck. Danny Cruz, the head coach of Louisville, makes all the changes at halftime, right?
He made 5 going into the game, and then he took 2 of them off right at half, yeah.
Correct. Took 2 of them off right at half. They were destroyed in every sense of the word of what the first 45 minutes looked like. The back line was too spread out. There was no midfield whatsoever between Carlos Mogel. I just like to say it that way because we've changed it, and Mogul sounds so much better. It's not. It could be. Could be. Think about how many players changed their names.
He was a child.
If you were going to change your name, what would it change to? What would the pronunciation be?
Watts.
Mike Watts?
Yeah.
Would I be more interested in changing my first name or second name?
Important note, I'll call Devon, and I'm the kind of schmuck in the car who will hold down the button and say, call Devon Kerr.
Nice.
And then she'll say, call in Devon Kerr.
Oh, she's Devon?
Devon. Both upward syllables.
Devon. That's a weird one that people say.
You've been called Carr a lot.
Carr and Kerr they don't sting like the nostrils as much as Devon.
Yeah.
Devon. I digress. First half was terrible. It's not even close. It was horrific. Where I'm going with this is, are we more impressed by Charleston playing that well against so many different positions that had really yet to be seen by Louisville?
And let's just say this, 4 straight games, Louisville did not make a single change. And then they made 5
in the lineup, for sure.
Right.
And when they made changes down the stretch, game was pretty much in hand for the most part in all the games that they'd played in. So, and I'm not shortchanging Charleston. I was very clear on air how good they were. But what does that game look like if it's full strength for Louisville? This is what we're all going to get excited about the next time they play, right? I don't know. It's interesting to me because Charleston and Ben Pierman and Lee Cohen and everybody involved in the organization very clear about the quality that they have within the roster, which I agree with. Their depth is certainly better than previous years. I wouldn't call it super deep, though. It's not a big roster. What is it, 19 players? So Louisville, we've talked about their depth and guys and their inability to get on the field. Well, those guys were on the field, and they really struggled. So it's kind of like, okay, maybe the margins are a lot smaller than we thought they were for Louisville City. Give them credit in the second half. They were much better. Charleston certainly lost a bit of steam until they took over at the end. There's no question in my mind that that's going to be 2 playoff teams and that they're going to be 2 teams atop the Eastern Conference. Mike, I want to ask you a question, though, before we talk about anything else. What is Charleston's ceiling, given what we saw in that game?
Title.
Take it a step further. Are they the number 1 team?
They can be. Here's the thing, and like I just spoke to Ryan Martin ahead of tomorrow's game with Loudon. We were discussing how the Open Cup ravaged them.
Yeah.
They were the first month and a half last year a team we went, wow, all right. and then like 6 weeks without a win because they lost like 4 guys in that Open Cup run.
Correct.
And the reason I say that, Charleston gets the benefit of there's far fewer midweek games. The season is as stretched as it's ever been. They get to come in a week later in the Open Cup. The most games they can play there is 4. The likelihood is 2 or 3. So the reality is when you lack depth, their academy is just getting off the ground.
That's
I would imagine. Yeah, I mean that there's a ton of local talent there. They just don't wear Charleston kits as academy guys.
Bingo. And so that people are clear around the country, whether it's USL, MLS, non-denominational, if we want to go the religious route, there are a lot of teams in the U.S. that do not have academy teams, whatever you want to call it, until 14, 15, 16, 17.
The Sounders.
So a lot of these organizations, they kind of have these feeder clubs that they work closely with. They monitor players. Some of them come in as loanees, up in age groups, things like that, but they don't have them that young, and they don't start till like 15 or 16. That's a very common thing.
Yeah. I'm just saying there's no reinforcements that are going to come from there. You aren't going to be able to steal any minutes out of that. It comes down to health. Is Aaron Malloy healthy? Like already you've got striker issues in terms of health. So MD Myers, you don't have a logical backup right now. If he goes down, what happens then?
Yeah. And credit.
Yeah.
I do want to say, and credit to the group that was on the field. We didn't see Jake LaCava to the end, but they have already had their fair share of injuries. Jake LaCava coming back 2.5 to 3 weeks dealing with the flu. I know he picked up minutes, but nowhere near 90-minute game fitness. And Ben Pierre was like, look, I'm not going to cry about it. We got a job to go do. But they were even shorthanded, right?
Right.
So you got Louisville, full team, Battery, shorthanded, their best 11-ish. Lit it up. Love what I saw at MD Myers, by the way. I told you he's gonna be great in this league. I told you. And I'm put it this way. I take stock out of the game. I'm already hoping they play in the Eastern Conference final on it. I was like, can they play on a neutral field? That would be awesome. Right?
I would love that.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah,
Great atmosphere, great game.
Yeah, the only thing I'm gonna say is Louisville can lose 4 starters, right? And I think they will survive. Charleston loses 4 of their best 11 to 15 guys. The backfill there is going to be a substantial step down. Louisville can survive that. Charleston can.
It's certainly. I mean, look, we're talking about one of the best starts in club history, and Brian Ombie's not on the field.
Right.
So to your point, I think it's very specific when it comes to Charleston Battery. For instance, like, if you lose Aaron Malloy, you have a massive problem. Massive. Yep. If you lose Emilio Icaza or Chris Allen, I'm concerned. I'm less concerned because I do think they can fill the gaps. And also then we're talking about the length of time. I know we're getting down into the doldrums here about what could happen with these teams, but that's just the excitement that I have for both clubs because as you and I see everybody around the USL Championship, I'm probably super excited about 4 or 5 teams right now. 2 of them in the East. It's Louisville and Charleston.
Yeah. All right, Dev. Couple of headlines to hit real quick. Sebastian Sanchez has joined FC Tulsa, which means he's going to go play for his dad. He wasn't going to get time at Louisville City the way things are going right now. You jump in, you don't see an amateur team in the first round. You get Greenville in the Open Cup. You aren't going to get minutes now. I love this. Christian Nava's probably back. Could be this week in Open Cup from a torn ACL. I don't know how long it's going to take for him to look like Christian Nava again. But, I mean, that kid was on fire 2 years ago and then just had his whole season ripped away last year.
Yeah, played 15 minutes against Miami, first game of the year, and he's done. So I'm super excited to see him back. I'm excited to see how Eric Quill uses him. Christian Nava, you want to play him in that inverted outside winger on the outside that kind of tucks into those little half channels, play on the half turn. He's so good. You can play him at the 10. If they change formationally, you want to play him up on the wing in a 3, false 9, really, really good. I actually would go a step further, Mike, and say that there's a ton of pressure on him now because he's no longer the 17-year-old kid that is an academy prospect that people are looking around going, he's coming up through the ranks. He's coming off a big injury, right? Off a year, to your point, to close out 2022, which saw some, in my opinion, and I think you would probably agree, pretty decent numbers. Played 16 games. One included a playoff game, 2 goals, 2 assists. It was coming off just 5 appearances the year prior. He's 20 years old. He's going to be 20 or 20. Yeah, he's 20 years old. He's going to be 21 in September. 4 years between when he had a lot of noise about his name to now being a pro. You got to go out and make a statement. He needs to make a statement because this kid can do stuff, man. Honestly, I believe in his talent. I'd like to see his physical side grow a little bit, but if he can make some noise, promise you, it's not going to be we're not going to hear his name very long in the USL Championship if he can be consistent and show us what he truly is capable of.
And I'm very intrigued to see what a year in the weight room does. Yeah, you're working on your knee, but you can also build yourself a little bit during that time.
Yep.
Dev, a couple things before we had to break. Let's start with this. Tampa Bay throttled Miami 5-2. That was the game on Thursday last week. Tampa, 24 shots. It was at the soccer stadium down in Miami. Cal Jennings brace, Arteaga scores. I mean, dream come true, right? But who maybe did you learn more about? The Rowdies with their 5 goals or Miami getting a bit of a USL lesson early?
I'm saying neither because I thought the defending on both teams was horrific.
It was pretty shambolic.
It was pretty bad, and that's probably being kind. Dalton Knutson on the back line had a shocker. He was all over the map, and I felt bad for him because I know what he's capable of, and it just transitional defending for both teams was bad. You know, there was a double save in the first half by Jordan Farr where I watched him hesitate. He should have come and get it in general. I think Frank Lopez was the one coming up through the middle, but I watched him hesitate, made the save, but then the recovery save was even better. And you kind of just looked around going, where's the defensive help? Where's the pressure? How does the guy who bursts in between the back line, Lopez, get the first shot off, get the recovery, down in the corner, cut back across, still get the rebound off? Mm-hmm. And it was even worse for Miami FC. Nothing. They were poor goals, bad defending. I can't wait to see what these guys are capable of. I know we've said that a couple of times because I've been more disappointed in what I've seen this year than I have been excited about.
Dev, let's close with 2 stories on Sacramento. First of all, they've acquired a forward on loan in the family, right? Huddersfield Town, Kieran Phillips. So Sacramento owner is the Huddersfield owner, chairman, CEO, Kevin Nagel. The quote from him, we think he's talented, think he's a good fit for the Republic. The loan is an example of how we will continue to develop synergies both on and off the pitch. Fantastic. Have that back and forth. If you've got the money to do that, you know, I was just chatting with someone about a club they're involved in over in England who was telling me like it's like $160 million to own a low tier Premier League club. And then, you know, if you own a team here, you create, I mean, we've seen it in Miami, we've seen it, without an ownership stake in a bunch of other places. Orange County comes to mind. It's great.
Yeah, and I would say for Kieran Phillips, he just needs an opportunity at regular minutes. We have this discussion a lot, but talking about the system, the profile of player, a 9 wants to be up top, can play him behind, good diagonal runs, both wings. Also, the way that Sacramento wants to play, get him out. The continued evolution of the USL Championship, the relationships, the opportunities, players going both ways. This is a win-win for everybody involved.
All right, before we go to break, I want to tell you a little bit about Roro Lopez.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, I think people at this point know his story pretty well, not just because he's been around, but because of the games and the level that he's played over the years. Born in Guadalajara, raised in Santa Barbara, California, he signed with Chivas USA in 2005. So we're talking about now his 20th professional season. He bounced around MLS for a handful of years. Then he landed in Sacramento. He became a legend there in just 2 short years. So there's the miracle at Bonnie, putting the star above the crest in their expansion season. That performance ultimately takes him to Liga MX. He goes to Mexico for a handful of years, returns to the U.S. He's in his mid-30s. Inspires the Quails ultimately to a run to the 2022 Open Cup final. There's a prevailing theory from some talking heads. He seems like he's running out of steam, and yet he never does. I say all this to say that his playing accomplishments are beyond doubt and make him one of the best stories in USL in my 10 years around the league. But the impact that he's made that we hear about that isn't always public is even more substantial, especially in Sacramento, where he spent about a quarter of his career at this point. But what I really want to tell you is about a different Roman Lopez, 10 years old. While his dad was playing for LA Blues back in 2013, he was born, he had aortic stenosis. And in about 1 month from today, he will undergo surgery to either repair or replace his aortic valve. These players don't make an unbelievable amount of money. The highest paid guys in the league, somewhat comfortable, but this isn't like hitting the lottery. Ultimately, he might end up being a spitting image of his dad. This guy played already at 10 years old for San Juan Soccer Club in the State Cup final earlier this year. There's a GoFundMe to try and raise money for the Lopez family. They surpassed their $20,000 goal in short order. Luis Felipe put it together, midfielder for the team, who essentially said Rodrigo is never going to ask for this, but ultimately someone had to. There was someone who anonymously gave $5,000. Hercules Gomez, you may remember that Roro was an interview subject on Football Americas earlier in the Open Cup run, donated $1,000. It's GoFundMe.com/Romans-Heart-Surgery. And Dev, I don't know how much you have to add on this, but I know, at least from my end, I hope that Heart Health Park welcomes back a very healthy heart in just over a month's time when Roman's able to get back.
Friendly reminder that this goes beyond sport, right? And I would just say that you said everything so eloquently, and all I would add to it is that anything helps. And he's just a kid. He's just a child and looking to help continue his dream in another way. And his dad's trying to help make it happen. And he's very fortunate that he's got such a great father, yet alone that there are so many people outside of that fatherhood, that relationship, that is a brotherhood, that want to see him have the opportunity to help his son. Credit to Luis Felipe, credit to the Sacramento Republic family, and hopefully everybody out there can just chip in, even if it's just a couple of bucks.
At the time we are recording this, $28,988 by 240 donations. If you love the game in this country and you appreciate the greatness of sort of a lower division story becoming a Division I Mexican story, I mean, what an awesome tale it is for Rodrigo, and wishing all the best to his family and his son over this next month. When we come back, we take a look at, you guessed it, U.S. Open Cup match week when we return on All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back to USL All Access, everybody. A very happy Tuesday. If you miss any part of the show, it's available on the USL YouTube page with video tomorrow. It's also available on the SiriusXM app. Dev, for what it's worth, this is not my usual backdrop. However, I do sort of feel like a coach where I had to wipe off the entire board so that you wouldn't see lineups. And how many offices do we walk into when we head out on the road where it's like 19 transfer targets and their full depth chart? And it's kind of like, I can't look at that.
The good news is that conversation, because of trust and the developing of those relationships, has changed over the years. It used to be, I don't want to talk to them. Then it was, they're not allowed in my office. Then it was, don't look over there. Now it's just, I know you see it. We'll talk about it off air.
Yeah. Was it Charleston where they had JLC on the board? And we
no.
Who is that?
Rowdies.
It was the Rowdies.
It was the Rowdies, and it was the 2021 final. They were already doing work for 2022, and I remember sitting there, and I texted Lee Cohen, who was then, the Knight in Shining
Rowdies GM,
the Rowdies GM, the Knight in Shining Armor, next to Neil Collins, the head coach of the Rowdies. And I remember texting him and I going, JLC? And he goes, who told you? I said, no, I saw the big board. He goes, no chance you're getting it. About 20 minutes went by, I go, are you getting Jake LaCava? Let's just say that we shared a nice beverage together, but he wasn't happy that I figured it out. We haven't been back in the office since. That's not true, but
Was that a Scottish beverage?
It was not Iron Brew. No.
Okay, different Scottish beverage.
And when I was with Neil Collins, we actually joked about that situation. We were actually onto the German bubbly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good times.
All right. It is Open Cup match week. Games have already begun. I'm actually calling one as this show is airing, so that's 2 straight weeks, 2 places at once. I'm calling Louisville Greenville tonight. It's worth noting Detroit City, Michigan. You want to talk about like stinky, smelly games, smoky. Look, all the adjectives are true. This Stars owner is a clown.
Bro.
Do you know what it takes for me to say, man, Detroit, keep laying it on thick. They deserve it. Do you know what that takes? I mean, it's unbelievable. This dude, have you seen the meme where it's like, here's Bobo the Clown. He is professional clown school trained and done this for 20 years. That's this guy. It's unbelievable. The letterhead, the video in a dark room. Like, what are we doing?
What? When was the letterhead that went viral?
That was we were in a smoky, smelly, whatever environment.
Yeah, but
I mean,
what game was that? Who were they playing?
It was Detroit. It was at Detroit.
It was Detroit.
Yeah,
okay,
this is the stinky, smelly derby.
Just making sure. Yeah, that was next level. By the way, what are the odds we're going to see Justin Merrim again in midfield tonight for the Michigan Stars?
Look, admittedly, love that.
Yeah,
love
so
that.
awesome. So awesome. Yeah, the owner is he has been the owner. He has been head of PR and comms. He's not only a client, he's the owner. He's not only the president, he's the client. I kind of feel bad for his kids who are also involved in the organization, who kind of, rumor has it that both of them across the pond were offered contracts with clubs that'll remain nameless at this point in time, and that daddy wasn't happy with the terms, and he yanked them out to bring them back here with no affiliation or contract to any club whatsoever. And now I think they're still with the Stars.
Oof.
Yeah, it's not a good look. Not a good look whatsoever. Actually, I think it's Steven. I know one of them is for sure. I know Steven is like 100% he's there. I'm not sure where the other brother is. And I feel bad. I do.
Detroit and Michigan, that's a big game tonight. Charlotte and Rhode Island, intriguing in part because, Jeffrey's ball against Rhode Island. I don't know a better way to put it. Like it's enticing, but it's also fairly tight sometimes.
Is that an upset or no?
Rhode Island hasn't won a game yet. I'm not sure I'm betting on them.
Does a draw against Bob Lilly feel like a win?
A draw against Bob Lilly?
Yeah.
No, it feels like like you gave Bob exactly what he wanted from the game.
I was just saying.
Yeah,
we'll still not a bad result.
No, it's not. If you're Rhode Island, that's one you should have, but they do have to go on the road, which I don't envy. And then Oakland El Farolito's the late game. It took the San Francisco Chronicle to put out that Denbor Benson is actually Jerry Benson's brother, spelled completely differently.
Bankston and Benson, correct.
Right, but
I'm sick to my stomach. It's so obnoxious.
I don't know how this happened. How does this happen?
Which is funny because you and I watching, it's like we talk him up.
We're like, oh man, he played at Motagua. That's a big club. Yeah, the club his brother played at.
And then you see him, like, people make the comparison. And they're like, oh yeah, it's the same bloodline. They're like, well, that makes sense. They're basically twins.
So much sense. And
same profile, the way they move, everything, right?
Unless there's something I'm missing, that dude should be on a League One or a championship roster, even if you're taking a flyer yesterday.
Why are we spelling our last name differently?
I couldn't tell you.
Is it possible? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
That anybody missed a letter registering him? No, because you have to have an ID. Positive.
Yeah, I'll say this. U.S. immigration has not typically had the best record on adequately writing out names going back to Ellis Island.
You're assuming he's an immigrant.
It
could be an international.
Yeah. Yeah.
He would still have his own license. He would still have his own ID from his foreign country and his passport.
I guess. I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm with you that U.S. immigration could have totally gotten it wrong. But unless he's on a green card, even if he's on Bro, if he's just on a 90-day just visiting, he's playing in the Open Cup. That's the greatest story I've ever heard, by the way.
It absolutely is.
It's probably not allowed for the bylaws. We should look into that. But
that's that's a warning.
It's a warning. 100. What's a bylaw? 100%. I love the traction that El Farolito is getting.
It's amazing. And finding out you can't get a jersey because they cost too much to make for a small quantity. And everyone's like, no, we'll buy. If they pre-ordered 500, they'd be gone. Right?
Oh, easily. Yeah. I think 500 is a small number.
Right.
I think 500 is a very small number. I texted Santiago Lopez after the game. Yeah, and I was like, hey, man, yeah, sorry. Thank you for putting that identifier out there. Hey, bud, again, appreciate the time earlier. Such a great opportunity to get the chance to cover you. Mike and I were so grateful. You and I were obviously on the call together. We were so grateful. By the way, if you guys ever decide to start making jerseys, let me know. I had about 20 or 25 people reach out asking if they could get one of the jerseys. They are missing a massive opportunity here.
Yeah.
Get a sponsor, have them be the backer, tell them they can have 5%, 10%, whatever. You could be turning jerseys left and right in this situation.
I agree. I think it would be short-lived because it would wait.
Who cares?
The next Open Cup. Yeah, I don't disagree.
And put it this way. Win the first round, okay. Win the second round, okay. They win the next round, like.
If they go and win at Oakland, my God.
They could.
They very well could.
I think they're very more than capable of winning this game.
I know.
That would send poor Joseph Malfa into another stratosphere. Which, by the way, he's going to catch a stray right now. I want to be clear here. Now, he's a league guy. I respect that. And I say Joe would go into another stratosphere because he likes Oakland. He's kind of like the default Oakland guy. He's utilizing a lot of their broadcasts. So in his tweet that he puts out, welcome to the third round. Fun pair of matchups tonight with his broadcast partner. He names the two games. Detroit, Michigan renew their rivalry. I don't think the rivalry needs renewing. I think it's just a rivalry. So that's number one. Number two, and he says the times of the games. Oakland versus tournament darlings El Farolito. Open and close parentheses. The Roots eliminated El Farolito in 2023. That's showing favoritism. I do not appreciate it, and it is unnecessary to be included in the tweet.
That's, I mean,
no, you don't do it. You didn't do it for any other team. Why did you include it for Oakland?
But you included that the first game was a rivalry. You just said it was unnecessary to say so. They put one qualifier on each. A good play-by-play loves to stir the pot. We're just.
I'm going to have a word with young Joseph.
Yeah. Their game's on Wednesday, too. I made a reference to betting. All right, let's dive in. So Richmond plays Loudoun. Believe it or not, both in Virginia. They played twice in preseason this year. They've never played each other in a competitive competition. Loudoun in, same
Shocking.
time Richmond went to League One. Open Cup, Loudoun wasn't capable until last year of playing. In Open Cup, all right, first time for everything. Hopefully it's memorable. Omaha and El Paso, ruh-roh. I am nervous. I'm nervous.
For whom?
El Paso.
Who's more pressure on El Paso? Truly, El Paso
1,000,000%.
You think so?
1,000,000%. And they go to Omaha. Brutal.
I was going to say you have to go on the road. I am the last person, and you and I talk about this all the time. I'm the last person to lobby for someone losing their job, and I'm not going to do it right now. I want to phrase the question, though. Does the result in Open Cup for Brian Clarhaut have any impact on his job in El Paso and what's going wrong there?
I don't know that they're going to pull the trigger based on anything that happens on Wednesday, but it's one of those.
It's not going to help him.
I did a college basketball game. I think it was like 2016. And the game ended, and it was Fordham against UMass Lowell. And if you know anything about UMass Lowell, or Fordham for that matter, not good. Fordham better recently. Ergonomics, my guys. It was like team 350 in Ken Palm out of like 352.
Yeah.
You paid $50,000 to get them in the building, and they lost. And I saw the AD after that game, and that was the first time it was clear to him there was a change coming.
Yeah.
And that's what this does. It destabilizes everything when you are 0-5-1 and you lose to a lower division team. El Paso players, if you like your coach, better flip and show it on Wednesday night.
Agreed.
You may not have your coach much longer.
Get it together. Get your head out of you-know-what. And you and I have seen them play some good football, Mike.
Yeah.
And it is.
That's why this is so shocking.
You want to talk home and away, like we've discussed. They've played so many home games already and haven't been able to get the results.
No, they toasted a third of their schedule already.
And it doesn't get easier, by the way. They on the weekend, Mike, they got to play the Rowdies. They got to travel to Al Lang. So you're in a situation where you haven't gotten a point, just 1 point on the year, by the way, since March 13th. It was at home against Monterey Bay. Good point, I might add.
Yep.
You've lost both home and away to the following teams: Louisville, Vegas, both 1-0s. New Mexico, Oakland, both 3-2s. Figure it out. Figure it out quick, because this is going to go south for a lot of people, not just the coach, if you guys don't turn a corner. I hope they do. I hope they at least have a good showing. Some of their performances haven't been that great. I don't want them to beat Omaha because it's my hometown team, but I do want to see them get better. I really do.
Yeah, quick quote on that from Brian Clarhaut after the loss to Oakland. He said it was the complete opposite performance of New Mexico last week, where we had a lot of energy. And even saying that, we were still up 2-1, and you give up 2 goals in 5 minutes for a second week in a row. Quote, we're losing games by 1 goal every single week, so I need to look at myself in the mirror. Something's not right here. Here's the other game, Dev. I'm just going to throw this out there. Memphis against Miami United. I'm not putting any money on this game. I don't know that anyone's going to be allowed to put any money on this game. You have to be a real degenerate to do it in the first place. But if you did last time around and you bet on Miami United, turns out, rumored,
made a pretty penny.
You
made a pretty penny.
And you did all right. I'm just going to throw this at you. Everyone's going, but you're betting on yourself. Okay. Why? Who's to say the other team didn't give you 20 grand to go bet on yourself too? It's a slippery slope. There's a reason you don't bet in your sport. Okay. I know this sounds crazy to people. I work for an NBA team and I work for an NFL team. They're tracking this stuff.
100%.
Okay. I even if I'm betting in tangential places, there's an understanding that it's so intertwined and interconnected that once you start making it look in any way like this could be thrown week to week, all of a sudden the entire concept of sports loses its value. So, like, everyone's like, oh, but they bet on themselves. Okay. Why aren't they going to bet on themselves this week? Is someone else going to go bet on them to lose and take money on the side? Like, I'm not claiming any of that actually happened. I'm just saying, like, there's a reason there are rules about this. And going forward in the Open Cup, they've never had to worry about this in the bylaws. They will ensure there's no Black Sox scandal. That's all.
Who needs a result more, Memphis or El Paso? Just so that everybody understands, El Paso has 1 draw in all of their performances this year. Memphis has 1 win.
Miami
and they're coming off a 2-1 against Loudoun on the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in terms of team,
I think it's El Paso, but go ahead.
It's El Paso. Memphis isn't far behind.
No, not far behind. And I do feel for Stephen Glass, who comes in. I like him as a coach. Had pretty much all of his talent cherry-picked by a ton of coaches, shortchanged by certainly the Charleston Battery of the East.
Yeah, and it only serves to remind you what Ben Pierman was able to do there with that budget.
You're welcome.
And that lack of support.
And all of a sudden, we're back to Memphis in 2019.
Yep, and I regrettably, I think it was a lot more about the coach then than it is now. But
agreed.
Yeah, you've got the same systemic problems. All right, when we come back, quick look ahead to week 7 in the championship. It's next on USL All Access.
giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back to USL All Access, everybody. Happy Tuesday. You miss any part of the show, guess what? You can still watch it. It's on the SiriusXM app to hear tomorrow. It is on the USL YouTube page to watch tomorrow with Devon, Mike. Let's preview some of the action upcoming, coming attractions, as it might be. All 24 teams are playing in about a 12-hour stretch. The matches will start at 4 p.m. Eastern, run till after midnight. 12 games, all on Saturday. It's going to be great. All the matches this week are on ESPN+. Hartford and San Antonio is our SiriusXM FC match of the week. It airs Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, right here. Dev, couple games to watch that at least I'm intrigued by. The first game actually that afternoon is intriguing to me. I don't know that Oakland is the team that's going to snap Detroit and their perfect 4-0-0 start, but I do know it's sort of been, to this point, Detroit handling their business and doing so rather effectively. This is another game where they're supposed to handle their business and do so effectively.
Detroit's efficient. I talked about Elvis Amo and what he's capable of in the 9. You know, there are injuries coming through that team right now. They've got better control. This has always been about goals for this team, for Detroit City in years past, or their inability to produce them. We had this discussion in the Louisville Charleston game, Mike. Detroit City, over their first 2 seasons of existence, have averaged 0.75 goals per game for. And in their first 4 this year, they're at 1.74. So almost a goal per game difference. That's all it is. We know that they can defend. We know they've got one of the best and most hostile environments at home at the Key. Mm-hmm. And that's all that this is going to be. I could see Oakland come in there. I'm actually looking at a different game, to be honest. I know we were discussing Oakland roots and giving Joe Malfar a hard time. I'm looking at the Tulsa-Charleston game. Tulsa's interesting, man. Like, we discussed before, if they would be bought in to, players would be bought in, right?
They look like
it. Being there. They look like it. Now, they were valiant against SAC on the weekend, who they've never beaten, by the way, in 13 tries now, 9-0-4. So they're going to be without the services of David Ramos. But I do think that, like, Stojanovic and Goodrum, that relationship is an interesting one. They've tried to move Goodrum, they let him float a little bit more at times. It kind of pushes him into a 10 spot. I like what that could be in this matchup. I do think in front of that back line against Charleston, like the way that they rotate and the midfielders go, it puts a lot of pressure on Aaron Malloy. 2 guys covering that space when the back line drops off a little bit. Kind of like the way it looks for Tulsa, to be honest.
Yeah, and Goodrum's been a little bit banged up to start the year as well.
Yeah. Plus, I like Blaine Ferry, the youth national team player on the outside.
Yeah.
He seems to start to be maturing a little bit more. He's cleaner on the ball, better decision making. I think they give him the opportunity to see the game better the way that they let him play. Mm-hmm. Previously, it felt like a lot more was by his lonesome, kind of closed off to the match. I don't see that as much from him, which is obviously good in terms of his growth patterns.
Yeah, which, Mario Sanchez coming in, right? So he took over the worst team, literally the worst team in men's college soccer, and turned them into a winning program in like 2 years.
Yep.
That was what, UNLV?
Correct.
Ends up at the Academy at Louisville. I mean, you want to talk about serving in the club, like all that went on with Racing Louisville. He steps in as the interim there. He was set to be the assistant coach there this year. And then he gets this call from Tulsa at the last minute when Blair Gavin gets the call to go to New England and join Caleb's staff. And then the president of the team leaves and goes to league headquarters. Pretty wild, like nutty offseason for them. The thing that took me when I spoke to him was, go look at the turnover elsewhere in the organization. No one wanted to be here. It's our job to change that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really telling, because the Kraft family, they are not threadbare. They're not broke.
What's the biggest change that we see as we now change gears in the Colorado Springs Indy game? that you would want to see out of a team?
I don't understand the question, but I'm sure it was a good one.
Put it to you. I'm saying, for instance, as we change gears and go to another game here.
Yeah.
If you were one of those managers, what would you want to see differently? And don't say a result.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like Indy, for instance. Indy, for instance, has given us pockets of play, 20 minutes in a game, 40 minutes in a game, and they look lost in the rest of it. Colorado Springs goes 100 miles an hour one end to another, and for some reason can't finish anything.
No, legitimately, it's like 3% conversion, which is it's impossible to be that bad at finishing, and the players there aren't at that level. I would like to see it a little more composed and compact from Colorado Springs in that game. You've got an Indy team that's like hemorrhaging goals right now, so I know maybe I'm wrong and you want to run it right down their throat right from the jump. But to me, I just want to see a little more composure.
It's not in their DNA to do that.
Yeah.
In what, 3 seasons now, since Brendan Burke went out to the West and opened things up, they don't have an off switch.
But you've lost 5 games in a row, so maybe it's time to go see if it exists.
Who wins?
Colorado.
I'll take Indy.
Okay. 2 other games. They're the late games. Orange County and Sacramento, 10 p.m. Eastern. That is the top 2 teams in the West. Phoenix and Pittsburgh, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, out on the West as well. Anything to add? You good? All right. Upward and onward. Potpourri coming up on the other side of the break.
You're listening to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back. Here we go on USL All Access, closing out on this Tuesday night with Dev, Mike. Dev, let's just chat about where we're going, right? Winless, unbeaten. Let's start with the teams that are on the downside right now. Rhode Island will go to Las Vegas. They do have 4 points, and all of them are from draws. Pittsburgh has a couple of points, but 3 losses, 3-2. They're at Phoenix. El Paso's at Tampa Bay. Colorado Springs will host Indy. I think Colorado Springs will get at least a point this week. But it's important to note that Rhode Island and Pittsburgh played each other last week, and you and I called it. We said this screams 0-0. It's 0-0, no doubt. And God, it happened. It really did. I've never been so happy to see a 0-0 in my life because I knew it.
You're ridiculous.
No,
Truly are.
I'm not. I knew it.
We both did. Rhode Island is better than what they've produced, though. I will give them that. Rhode Island is better than 4 draws. We can both agree on that. Fair? I'm not saying much better.
No, but they have had enough to win a game.
They've had their moments, for sure.
Yes.
And the best opportunity out of all these teams on the weekend is Colorado Springs.
Yes.
Although I do think Indy would probably get the better of them, I think Colorado Springs probably has the best opportunity, given what we've seen so far, to get a result now. Because you said Indy's leveraging goals. I think it's much more than that. I think it's just poor decision-making. Now, it leads to that, but all over the field. Their inability to be precise in a lot of locations has cost them not just goals. It's poor patterns of play, goals on the opposite end of the field. It's frustrating. It's frustrating because, and Mike, people at home who don't know this, I'm going to tell you how I feel, for better or for worse. Usually, when I go into a meeting with a manager, I'm pretty honest. They're not always as brutally honest as I used to be, but I'm honest with them. And I'm honest about how I feel. Indy is nowhere near as bad as what they have put out so far. Nowhere near it. And I think they deserve better.
By the way, Pittsburgh 1 goal in 5 games. And I thought it was going to be the turning point, too. It was Kizza, an equalizer against Louisville, and then they coughed up 2 more at the end. 1 goal in 5 games.
That doesn't surprise me.
At this point, it's starting to become surprising.
The goals aren't surprising to me. It's what's happening on the opposite end of the field that's surprising to me.
Yeah.
The MO of a Pittsburgh Riverhounds team coached by Bob Lilly is that no ifs, ands, or buts, you shall not pass. It's fair. It's true.
What is he, a bridge troll? What?
I mean, they're not giving up a ton, but New Mexico, 2 against Orange County, 3 against Louisville. At least they haven't conceded in 2 games.
That's true.
And you get it. The week before you did it against a Rowdies team that just dropped 5. So there is a growth pattern.
Yep. Give them a minute. All right, unbeaten. There's 5 remaining. Detroit was off last week. They go this week. Mentioned the 4:00 game there. Orange County will see Sacramento. Sacramento will go to Orange County. They're both 3-0-3, top teams in the Western Conference. Charleston will see Tulsa. They are unbeaten through 7, much like last year. The Rowdies unbeaten through 5. We'll see El Paso. Louisville, of course, drops from the ranks of the unbeaten. Most likely to take an L this week.
Charleston.
I'm shocked.
You think I'm crazy for thinking that?
I feel like Charleston on a small field might even be better than Charleston on a big field.
That's fair. I think they're going to be tired. Recognize the fact that they're going to go Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday.
It's
4.
They don't
4.
play, but they don't play in the Open Cup this week in
For
Tulsa
sure.
does.
I'm just saying, man. I think they're better. They're much better.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get feelings. I got a feeling about Colorado Springs 2 weeks ago, and look how that turned out.
Excellent.
You know that whole betting idea? Don't follow Devon.
No. All right, Dev, mailbag's empty. You learn anything? Oh, wait,
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, someone wanted to know how often, it was from our comments last week, they want to know how often we travel and do we normally leave like that time after a game? We made comments about leaving Louisville. Do we normally leave that quickly? We travel a ton. That's probably the only way you can say it.
I had a chance to be home on Sunday at 10 a.m. or a chance to be home at 1, and I got home at 10. Yeah. I don't get a lot of weekend days off. I would
say 98% of the time, we do not get the opportunity to travel after a match to get home the same night.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do, it's usually because we're in a studio in our hometown.
Accurate.
Or what is going to be, in hopes, an early game for the final. And as I mentioned, we're going to be doing dinner somewhere at some hub, probably Hartsfield-Jackson.
I could do Minneapolis as well, but not Detroit.
Dev,
learn anything?
They got a nice golf simulator in Detroit. I learned that you're not even willing to venture there for that.
What?
Oh, yeah. It's delightful. B Terminal. Check it out.
I just can't believe they allow someone to hold a golf club at an airport.
The airport clientele is much different than what you get at the Key.
All right. I'll tell you what I learned. It's not actually from the show, but the bats we use, Louisville Slugger made bats with the CBS logo and the logo of the two teams. It was our first game on network TV. They took a beautiful little shot of them with the roses. What do you do with the bats? He gave me the bat. That's great. Dev got a bat. Dev's taking out his bat. I need to say that in a different way.
There you go.
There it is.
Beautiful, beautiful craftsmanship.
Here I am walking into Fort Lauderdale Airport or Cincinnati Airport, and I go, "Excuse me, am I allowed to take this bat on this plane?"
Oh, we checked as well. We asked as well.
I had no idea. But then you think about it. Why would they let you on a plane with a bat?
They let you on with a blade. I travel with scissors.
Yeah, I just it never hit me. They're like, that's a weapon. I'm like, wow.
Mike, who's running down the aisle with a bat to take over a plane when you have scissors that can unfortunately put someone in harm's way or pick a lock? I mean, come on. If MacGyver's going for the throne and he wants to throttle up to take a plane, he's not going with Slugger.
My next flight is on Sunday, and I'm about to get cavity searched over this radio show. For Devon, Mike, Emmett, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday night if I could get on a plane. See ya.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.